Good evening. It's Friday the 31st of October and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Royal Rift. King Charles decisively removes Prince Andrew's royal titles and Windsor residence. Gaza war. Israel launches new Gaza strikes despite reaffirming US-backed ceasefire commitment. Animal chaos. Pet monkey escapes in a Texas Spirit Halloween store, sending shoppers scrambling.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Sithmi Adhikari.
Good evening and thank you once again for joining us on World News Tonight on Derana News Channel. In a striking move, King Charles III has formally stripped his brother, Prince Andrew, of his royal titles at his residence at Windsor, according to the statement from Buckingham Palace. The decision follows growing concern over Andrew's links to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and marks a decisive break within the royal family.
Britain's Prince Andrew has been stripped of all his royal titles and forced out of his Windsor home. That was according to Buckingham Palace on Thursday. It's one of the most dramatic moves against a member of the royal family in modern history and comes as the king seeks distance from Andrew over his links to late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew is the 65-year-old younger brother of King Charles. He settled a lawsuit in 2022 brought by Virginia Giuffre, which accused him of sexually abusing her when she was a teenager. Giuffre died by suicide in April this year. In a posthumous memoir released this month, she said entitled Andrew believed it was his birthright to have sex with her. Meanwhile, earlier this month, British tabloids published correspondence between Andrew and Epstein from 2011. The messages revealed Andrew had told Epstein that they should, quote, keep in close touch and that they would play some more soon. Andrew was forced to quit all royal duties in 2019 and then stripped of his military links and royal patronages in 2022. He has always denied all the allegations made against him. Earlier this month, he was forced to stop using his title of Duke of York, and now he'll only be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And the Royal Lodge mansion of the Windsor estate west of London will no longer be his home. The disgraced royal was served a formal notice to move out of there. He'll be moving instead to a private property on the Sandringham estate in eastern England.
In Mumbai's Powai district yesterday, police successfully rescued 17 children aged approximately 12 to 15 who had been lured into what appeared to be an audition at a studio and held hostage by a man identified as Rohit Arya. After negotiations failed, officers stormed the studio, the captor was fatally shot and all hostages emerged unharmed.
Authorities say the terrifying ordeal began when the suspect, Rohit Arya, allegedly invited the children under the pretext of a film or modelling audition at Arya Studios in Powai. Once inside, Arya reportedly locked the doors, brandished a firearm and demanded to speak with senior police officials. Witnesses nearby described hearing screams from inside the building as officers surrounded the area and began negotiations that lasted for several tense hours. Police negotiators initially attempted to calm Arya, who appeared agitated and incoherent, before the situation escalated when he allegedly fired shots inside the studio. At that point, the Mumbai Police Special Operations Team launched a swift raid, fatally shooting Arya after he reportedly pointed his weapon at officers. The 17 children, all shaken but physically unharmed, were safely evacuated from the premises and reunited with their families shortly afterward. Investigators are now examining Arya's background, including reports that he had a history of erratic behavior and had previously run small-time talent recruitment operations. Authorities have praised the rapid police response that prevented further tragedy.
At the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Gyeongju, South Korea, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese met face-to-face with Chinese President Xi Jinping, discussed trade tensions and navigation rights in the South China Sea. The brief encounter comes amid a fragile truce between China and the United States and increasing strategic pressure on Australia.
The Prime Minister's pull aside with President Xi.
It's an opportunity to greet President Xi and to have a short informal discussion with him.
At a round table of regional leaders, all awaiting the ramifications of China's trade truce with the US.
The stronger the winds and higher the waves, the more we should board the same boat and cross the river together.
Dialogue is always good.
But Anthony Albanese knows China's chokehold on the critical minerals market opens a door for Australia.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Korea looking to tighten ties, but also cozying up to the United States, signing a deal for it to build nuclear submarines in America.
There aren't any implications for us with AUKUS. As a very separate arrangement done with our partners in the United States and the United Kingdom. It certainly is for, I would assume, similar reasons.
Reason number one, Korea's neighbours. Even as the PM had his chat with China, our Navy sent its own message to Beijing confirming patrols in the South China Sea a week after Chinese jets fired flares at a RAF Poseidon.
That's what we do. We do that on a regular basis. We do it in an orderly way, and there's nothing special about that.
Donald Trump has instructed the United States Department of Defense to immediately resume nuclear weapons testing, ending a 33-year-long pause just minutes before his high-stakes meeting with Xi Jinping in Busan, South Korea. The move, aimed at matching rivals Russia and China, has triggered alarm among arms control experts and international diplomats.
President Donald Trump has ordered the U.S. military to resume nuclear weapons testing.
We have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing, and we've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
It wasn't immediately clear if he was referring to actual detonation of a weapon, something the U.S. hasn't done in 33 years, or merely the testing of nuclear-capable missiles. The announcement came just minutes before Trump was set to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea for trade talks. Trump posted the directive on Truth Social, saying the Pentagon will begin testing America's nuclear arsenal on an equal basis with other nuclear powers. He said he had to act to ensure Washington keeps up with rival powers, adding that test site locations would be decided later. Asked whether the world now faced a higher risk of nuclear war, Trump dismissed the danger, saying U.S. weapons stockpiles were well locked up. He added that he would welcome denuclearization. Trump's call to restart testing comes as China rapidly expands its arsenal, and just days after Russia claimed successful tests of a nuclear-powered cruise missile and torpedo. The U.S. leader has criticized Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying he should focus on ending the war in Ukraine instead of launching missiles. According to Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies, China has roughly doubled the size of its arsenal to an estimated 600 nuclear weapons in 2025 from 300 weapons in 2020. The Arms Control Association says the United States has a stockpile of 5,225 nuclear warheads and Russia has 5,580. Meanwhile, Trump has given South Korea approval to build a nuclear-powered submarine, effectively admitting Seoul to a small club of nations possessing such vessels. The submarine will be built in a Philadelphia shipyard where South Korean firms have increased investment. The approval comes after Seoul agreed to buy vast quantities of U.S. oil and gas.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. Despite reaffirming a US-backed ceasefire commitment, Israel launched air and tank strikes on eastern Gaza that reportedly killed more than 100 civilians. The military action raised urgent questions about the ceasefire's credibility and puts renewed pressure on international mediators working to contain the violence.
Residents of Khan Yunis said Israeli warplanes and artillery shells struck Gaza on Thursday, a day after Israel said it was committed to a U.S.-backed ceasefire. The Israeli military said it carried out, quote, precise strikes against what it called, quote, terrorist infrastructure that posed a threat to the troops in areas which Israel still occupies. Thursday's bombardment comes a day after Israeli fire killed 104 people in Gaza, attacks the United Nations condemned. Israel said those strikes were in retaliation for an ambush by Palestinian gunmen that killed one of its soldiers. Hamas said it had no ties to the group that carried out the attack and said it was committed to the U.S.-brokered truce that went into effect on October 10th.
What happened yesterday was a violation.
The Prime Minister of Qatar said his country moved swiftly amid the renewed fighting to ensure the tentative deal held. In Khan Yunis, Mohammed al-Sheikh said the war hadn't stopped. He said, "The situation is difficult and unbearable, and we pray that God will grant us relief."
In Sudan's embattled Darfur region, the paramilitary Rapid Forces is accused of killing hundreds inside a hospital in the city of El Fasher, including patients and companions, after the facility was raided. Meanwhile, more than 36,000 civilians have fled towards towns such as Tawila amid allegations of mass executions and ethnic-based violence.
Allegations of mass killings and ethnic cleansing. These images are believed to show members of the Rapid Support Forces targeting the Saudi maternity hospital in El Fasher. According to displaced residents, the UN and aid workers, the RSF killed 460 patients and others present in the wards.
This is not the first time that health workers at health institutions have been hit in this war. But such a massive number of people being hit in a maternity hospital, that's just despicable.
The RSF, which has been fighting a brutal war with the Sudanese army for more than 2 years, just captured El Fasher on Sunday, the army's last stronghold there. Thousands have fled North Darfur's capital city, and they describe horrific conditions.
There was a lot of shelling. I myself have been injured by shrapnel. Shelling killed my daughter, injured my other daughter's eye, and paralyzed my son. I was hit by shelling. My body is full of wounds and is swollen.
Shelling and drone attacks were happening all the time. They hit us with the back of the rifles day and night unless we hid in the houses.
The commander of the RSF forces acknowledged that his soldiers had carried out abuses and that any illegal actions would be investigated. Both sides have been accused of committing war crimes during what the UN has labeled the world's biggest humanitarian crisis. Since the war broke out, more than 150,000 people have died.
In Valencia, Spain today commemorated the first anniversary of the devastating floods last year that claimed 237 lives, 229 of them in the region. As mourners gathered, many voiced grief and outrage, accusing the regional government of a delayed warning system and botched emergency response.
In November 2024, just days after one of Spain's worst natural disasters, the king faced fury from mud-throwing residents in Valencia. Almost a year later, Felipe VI attended state funerals to honor the flood victims. The king and the state were widely criticized for their response. Today, the head of state says understanding the causes remains essential.
It is necessary to continue analyzing the causes and circumstances of the tragedy, to calmly and carefully draw lessons that will help us face future catastrophes.
But this calm was not shared by the victims' families. A year on, anger and frustration prevail over answers that never came. On October 29th last year, in just 3 hours, the Valencia region received as much rain as in the previous 21 months combined. Streams became torrents, mud swept away everything, 237 lives were lost. T-shirts worn by victims' families at Wednesday's funeral carried a clear message. These deaths could have been avoided if residents had been warned sooner. At an earlier tribute, protesters opposed the presence of regional leader Carlos Mazón. In his speech, Mazón admitted mistakes, but his apology rang hollow. No words can fill the void left by a lost loved one. Thousands joined a silent march through Valencia.
The groundbreaking vessel Neoliner Origin has successfully completed its maiden transatlantic crossing, marking a milestone in sail-powered cargo shipping. Despite sustaining damage to its aft sails, the ship utilized both its motor and remaining rigging to reach the port. The voyage underscores a new era of greener freight transport.
The world's largest cargo sailboat finished its first Atlantic crossing on Thursday. The Port of Baltimore welcomed the Neoliner Origin, a near 450-foot-long sailboat with its cargo of Renault vehicles, machinery, French liqueurs, and other merchandise. The boat earlier stopped at Saint-Pierre and Miquelon, a French overseas territory near Canada, but the crew of the Neoliner Origin had to partially rely on its motor for the crossing after a storm damaged its aft sail. The design of the Neoliner Origin aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80 to 90% compared to traditional diesel-powered cargo ships. Jean Zanotini is CEO of Neoline, the French ship owner which commissioned it. He says it'll take about 6 months to gain a better understanding of its performance. The Neoliner Origin can carry up to 5,300 tons of cargo and has a commercial cruising speed of 11 knots. It aims to operate monthly rotations between Europe and North America. French naval engineering firm Mauric was in charge of designing the ship. CEO Vincent Séguin said it was a challenge to balance economic viability with environmental innovations. While newly designed wind propulsion systems like those on the Neoliner Origin are more efficient at cutting emissions, the UK National Clean Maritime Research Hub says other systems like adding sails to existing boats also exist, and such retrofitted vessels can achieve emissions reductions of 5 to 20% with no operational changes, and up to 30% when optimized for wind conditions, meaning it's never too late or too costly to adapt to new winds of change.
Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. As Halloween has arrived, etiquette expert Thomas Farley, known as Mr. Manners, urges young trick-or-treaters to only take one piece of candy unless told otherwise, avoid rejecting a house's offering by saying, "I don't like that," and aim to wrap up by around 9 p.m. to keep the night safe and fun.
Are you trick-or-treating all wrong? He enlisted the help of Thomas Farley, better known as Mr. Manners. Mind your manners, not like this dad taking fistfuls of Halloween candy. He's called out by the homeowner through the doorbell cam.
Can you not be greedy and rude and leave some for other kids?
You want to make sure you're only taking one unless you're instructed otherwise. So don't go in and grab a whole fistful. We want to leave some for the other children who are going to be coming after you. It may be that the candy they have at this particular house is not candy that you like. You simply say thank you. You don't say, "I don't like that candy." If the lights are off, that means this house is a place to skip.
And what time does trick-or-treating end?
If the house is playing Halloween music with skeletons out front, lights fully on, it's a safe bet you can go there, but otherwise hang it up around 9 o'clock for sure.
And this mom, Betsy Bullock, also has some tips.
So I make sure I let them know that it's important to walk along the paths, up the driveway, not all over the flowers of your neighbors. I also like to remind them that we're not banging on the door. We're just respectfully knocking, or one ding-dong's enough.
In Plano, Texas, a trip to Spirit Halloween store turned chaotic when a pet monkey escaped its owner and began swinging through the rafters. Store staff evacuated shoppers as animal control arrived. The primate was safely captured without injury and the owner was questioned by authorities.
Spirit Halloween store can be a surreal shopping experience. But creepy clowns and spooky scarecrows took a backseat to the real show, running around above store shelves.
My daughter looked up and she said, "What in the world?" And she's like, "Is that a real monkey?" And so I look up and I said, "Well, it's got a diaper on, so I guess it is real."
For more than 30 minutes, the monkey could be seen climbing poles, swinging from wires, and crawling around rafters. Jimmy Harris works at the store. He says the pet monkey got spooked by animatronics and ran away from a customer who brought the animal inside. Plano police were called to the store and tell us when an officer arrived, he observed the monkey swinging from the rafters wearing a diaper. Eventually, a cookie was offered to the monkey by the owner and was able to gain control of it. Arlene Pinkston was not there for that.
It had jumped down on the floor and ran past my leg. And at that point, I was like, okay, I've had enough.
A picture or it didn't happen experience.
I've got better than that for you. I've got 5 videos.
Hair raising for different reasons.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Sidmi Adhikari, and we leave you tonight with the visuals of cursed dolls and shrunken heads haunting London. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076 805 7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on Other Derana News Channel. Have a good night.